Everyone. We've made it to the July Citizens Advisory Board, so thanks for joining in and participating with us today. Obviously, you can see we are in the office here at Eastgate. Our staff's been back since the beginning of June, and we're working to get kind of the policies in place for returning to some in-person meetings like this one. As everyone knows, we don't have a meeting in August, so we skip a month, and then in September, I think we can expect that we will be in person again. So keep your eyes peeled for when I send the information out for that meeting. Chances are that it will very likely be in person back here in our office to kick us back off for some more regular CAB meetings rather than the virtual connection that we've been working with. Today we've got Ed Davis in here with us. He'll be talking about OPWC in a little bit. And then we also have a new employee to introduce. Eastgate had two new staff members start this week. One of them is Dakota Bayes. He's an accountant for us, giving some help on that side of things. And we've got Eric Svensson here, who's our digital communications coordinator, who's going to help us kind of tell our stories and make sure we're connecting with people, whether that's our community partners and our member communities or members of the public, and make sure our information is getting out there in a way that makes sense to everyone and is helpful, and kind of beef up our work on that end. So we're happy to have him. He's been doing a great job this first week. So he's here with us today to see what the CAB is all about and learn what more we could do with it maybe. So we will jump right into our agenda and start off with a presentation from John Brolich from Youngstown State University. So John, feel free to take it away, and you've got the floor.
Okay, thanks. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for having me. I'm just going to go over briefly the work that we've done on the Trumbull County ADA transition plan. It was just recently completed and adopted by the Trumbull County Board of Commissioners. So just a little background, and probably not telling you anything that you don't already know, but the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law in 1990 by President Bush, and prohibits discrimination against anybody with a disability. This applies to services, programs, activities, facilities in our public sector, okay? And all public property and everything within public rights of way, this is applicable to, okay? Title II of the ADA specifically requires state and local governments to make their facilities and programs accessible. The one thing I'll say is this isn't a suggestion, this is a requirement. It's the law. There aren't any grandfather clauses or anything like that, but there's some workarounds for buildings and structures that may be difficult to bring into compliance. Just as long as you have your program or activity or service somewhere in a place that is accessible, then that's compliant under the law. Next slide. So this is a living document. It's a living plan. This is going to continue to be updated. We just finished this, within the last month or two. There's things in it that have probably already been changed as we make upgrades and bring things into compliance at the county. And as public feedback also is collected. Okay, so I do want to point out that there is a grievance procedure that can be complaints can be brought to the county if something is not accessible or there's an issue. Okay, so issues will crop up that need to be dealt with. So again, it's important to note that this is a living document. This is not final by any means, but will need to continue to be updated. As far as the components of the plan, I have these kind of bulleted here in the presentation on your screen. So we start with communications, information, and facility signage. So this is everything from your materials that are handed out to information that's presented, signage at buildings and parking lots, and also our websites and web pages. Okay, that need to be that need to be compliant. So I'm at YSU. Okay, I head up the Center for Applied GIS, and at the university, our web pages need to be ADA compliant. Not only the pages, but documents, any links that you have, those sites that those links point to need to be ADA compliant. So it's pretty stringent, the requirements of the law. Okay, so that's one part of the plan. Document. There was also a self-evaluation process that was undertaken by Baker, Bednar, Snyder Associates a couple years ago. They did a lot of the legwork, did a lot of the heavy lifting as far as identifying issues and actually combing through every facility to find things that were either that were in compliant or out of compliance. And there's a checklist that they go through. That's part of the document as well. It's actually in one of the appendices, the actual Baker Bednar report. Then our building inventory. Okay, so every building and facility the county either owns or runs programming or services out of. Our pedestrian facilities includes public rights of way, and also crosswalks, curb ramps, sidewalks, and the like need to be ADA compliant. I'm a GIS mapping and data guy. Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't include some maps and some demographic analysis in this document. So we have a section that includes that, and then our appendices, which includes Trumbull County's responsibilities. There's a page that outlines that. The grievance procedure, okay, is also in the appendices. Some resources, our curb ramp and sidewalk inventory that the county engineer's office put together, and then the Baker Bednar Snyder Associates survey. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this pertains to the buildings and structures. These are categories of issues. Okay, things that are out of compliance. The things that I bolded are main issues. Okay, I won't go through all of this in detail. The plan kind of breaks everything down into low, medium, high. So as far as priority and cost, okay, so you go after the low hanging fruit first and fix those issues. Things like door handles, signage, striping in parking lots. Okay, that can be done easily and at little to no cost. But these bullet points here on this screen, these pertain to our next slide. Okay, then we get into the pedestrian facilities and public rights of way. So this is an engineer's office. So Gary Schaefer is very, very helpful in developing this part of the plan. Okay, so basically take a two-tiered approach. Any street or utility improvement project will contain upgrades to current ADA standards. Okay, so this is the most comprehensive approach. Things done to improve the streets, utilities, or public rights of way. The second approach is specific sidewalk and ADA accessibility improvement projects. These are identified individually by the townships and then brought to the county engineer's office. Okay, and the county engineer's office can incorporate this into the capital improvement program, case by case basis, where the funds are available, or try to go out and find funds for these projects. So the engineer's office will coordinate with the townships to find funding to approach this tier. Okay, next slide. Our next step. So we've checked these off, as you can see. We presented the draft of the plan to the Trumbull County Board of Commissioners. That went well. We had also posted a draft of the plan on the county's website and advertised a 30-day public comment period. That was back in April and May, I believe. And then incorporated all the public feedback, any feedback from the board, and finalize the plan, and then they did adopt it here recently. It's submitted to the appropriate agency. It should be it's also, I should note, posted on Trumbull County's website. I believe you go to the Board of Commissioners webpage and you can download the document from there. Next slide. Or you can contact one of us. So here's our contact information. Jim Masaki from the Trumbull County Board of Commissioners. He is the point person on this. I believe ADA Transition Plan Coordinator, some type of title like that. But he's the point person with Trumbull County. Ed Davis, we all know from Eastgate. His contact information is on here as well as mine. So feel free, if you have any questions or think of anything, to reach out to one of us and contact us. From here, I'll open it up for any questions that we have. Okay, I think we have a question.
Yes, a couple of questions. First of all, do we have a similar plan for Mahoning County? And secondly, what shortcomings are there in Trumbull County as far as handicapped access that you found?
Okay, so for the first question, for Mahoning County, no. There's not been one completed, and Ed told me this morning that this is the first one that's been completed in Trumbull or Mahoning County. I did not realize that, so for Mahoning County, no, there hasn't been one completed. As far as the issues, I would say there's two wide-ranging issues here. Okay, so number one is the age of most of the buildings. Okay, so where you have like the newer buildings, like the county building on High Street, the new one, the administration building, there's not a lot of issues there as it was built recently and upgraded. But then you have a lot of older buildings. I mean, like one of the older ones being the stone house. Okay, it has, I mean, all kinds of accessibility issues that that present issues. A lot of the problems, honestly, are things like door handles. Okay, so having the lever door handles, if you push down, they can easily be open. Just the door closers. Okay, so the speed at which the doors open and close. Accessible routes are an issue. Handrails on stairs. In the parking lots, lack of available handicap parking spaces, and even signage at the right height, as far as building furnishings, things like countertops, thermostats not being at the right height. If somebody in a wheelchair would need to reach a countertop to be able to write, and those are things like that can be difficult to fix. So what you do is you provide maybe a table that is at the proper height that they can reach, that they can use to write on. So that's one issue. And then the second issue, and this is everywhere, and everything you do is funding, right? So, trying to fix some of the accessibility problems would require significant structural alterations and things like that, and that's obviously not in the capital improvement program for the county. So one way to get around that, as far as if your space or your building for whatever reason is not accessible, you could, if you have a public meeting, for example, or some type of service, you can have that in an alternative location that is accessible. It just needs to be accessible to the people that have a disability. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I was going to mention, I think this is a City of Warren issue. the Warren City Hall, the building that has the mayor's office in it, I think accessibility has been a long-term problem there. I don't know if they've made any improvements there.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about that because that, again, that would fall under the city of Warren and, you know, and they would need to undertake their own ADA transition plan, actually, because this particular one just covers Trumbull County and the county-owned buildings and ones where there's activities or services provided from. Are there any other questions?
I don't have a specific question, but I'm working on a project advocating for the trail, the Mahoning Trail, which is part of MS Consultants' plan they're doing for Eastgate. And part of that as well is accessibility for universal accessibility and ADA. And on the project, Matt Onesti, who does a lot of activism in Mahoning County, is kind of like consulting for me on that. So I just wanted to maybe pass along the name as someone that might have a good perspective on it all.
Okay, very good. Yeah, thank you for passing that along.
All right.
Any other questions?
Doesn't look like any more. So thank you, John, for being with us today and giving a view of Trumbull County's plan.
James Perko, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Jim.
Good. I appreciate the fact you're addressing ADA issues with Trumbull County. Big problem, parking. You have parking spaces alongside the building that by all rights should be handicapped. They're not. Handicapped people have to walk all the way over to their parking lot to find a handicap space. Now, a big sidewalk project was just put in there. You have about 3 or 4 spaces from High Street going toward the administration building that would make good handicap spaces. Now, I should know this because I am right now elderly handicapped, and going to the county administration building is a nightmare. Could we please get the city board to put handicap spaces there? I'll have a few signs, and the one concern I always heard was that the sheriff's deputies would just park there illegally. There is a remedy for that. Ticket those cars and deliver the tickets to the sheriff and let the sheriff take disciplinary action against the deputies who are parking in the handicap spaces. Problem solved.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Perko, for your feedback. I mean, I can't speak to who parks there or what, but I mean, you won't get any argument here as far as you know, there needing to be additional accessible spaces for these buildings, and that has been addressed in the plan at various buildings, and we'll you know, the county should incorporate this as well.
Could you write that into the plan?
The plan
providing
is, yeah,
handicap
I mean,
access to the main administration building.
Okay, are we talking about the county administration building?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that feedback I will pass along to Trumbull County. Yes, I mean, the plan is completed and published. You know, my contract is over. There's little that I can do to update it at this point, but like I said, it is a living, breathing document. So any public feedback that we get, which is, you know, we're getting right now, we pass along to Trumbull County to be incorporated into the process as they go along.
Yes, and that would be very much appreciated.
Okay, yeah. Yep, as soon as I get a chance, I will pass that information along.
All right. Any other questions for John? All right. Thanks again, John. We will move along to our next topic, Ohio Public Works Commission. It's going to take it over from here.
All right, thanks, Justin. Good evening, everyone. Okay. All right, everybody familiar with our web page? This is the home page. If I go to the regional planning tab here, come down to OPWC program. And on here, if I scroll down, we have all our documents needed for the upcoming round of funding. So the upcoming round of funding is for 2022, and it's program year 36. So that's the 36th year of this program. Down at the bottom, we have a calendar that shows our scheduled events, meetings, and due dates for this year. I'm going to take you through a typical year of funding for all these projects. So it usually starts back in May when we are issued our allocations for the upcoming round. So our district is District 6, covers Mahoning and Trumbull counties. There are 19 districts in the entire state. And the Ohio Public Works sends out this list of all the districts and their funding allocations for the upcoming year. Now, our allocations are broke down into a few categories. One is the LTIP, which is the Local Transportation Improvement Program. That can fund road and bridge projects. The other one is what we call SKIP, which is the State Capital Improvement Program. That can go to road, bridges, water, sewer projects. And then we also have a revolving loan fund. So this coming round, if we add these up, we have almost $8 million in grant money. And the loan money that we have, plus our balance, we actually have almost about $3 million in loan money. So this time of year, we let everyone know that they need to submit traffic counts for any of their projects. Go back out of here. And if you look at the back at the calendar, the next important date is August 30th. That's when pre-applications are due. So all the communities now are getting their traffic counts done, and they're starting, hopefully they're starting to get their pre-applications filled out. They will be submitted to this office by the 30th, and then I'll go through and process all those and put all the information in a big spreadsheet. Then I will submit that spreadsheet to our District 6 committee. Now, our District 6 committee is made of 9 members. There is the Mahoning and Trumbull County engineers. There's a representative from Warren. There's a representative from Youngstown. There's a representative. Each one of the commissioners from the county get a pick, and they pick the sanitary engineers for each county. We have a township representative, and that is right now it's Weathersfield. And we have a small city representative, which is Mayor Campbell. And then we have a private citizen member. And we also have alternates for all those 9 people. So, and those 9 people, they make all the decisions in this program. They get to score all the projects. So here is we have a scoring methodology on here. There's a whole list of different points that can be awarded for each project. And I will score most of the points based on what's in the pre-application. Then, once that goes all to the committee, then we have in September, we'll have a meeting where each community that submits a pre-application, they can come up and they have 3 minutes to make their case to the committee. They get to tell, what their project is, and the committee can ask them any questions if they have it. And then starting in October 5th this year, that is our first points meeting where the committee will actually assign points under certain categories in that scoring methodology. Once that's done, I'll tally all the points again in my spreadsheet, send it back out to the committee. Then they'll meet again 2 weeks later, and they will score another category. And then after that, I tally all the numbers again, and then they meet again in November. And at this point, we have, 50 or more projects, but we don't have enough funding for all those. So the committee has to confirm a cutoff for funding. So which projects get funded above the line, and then which projects below the line don't get any funding at all. That's what happens at that November meeting. All these different files are for submitting projects. We have a program manual that actually explains everything. We put this manual out every year. We update it every year, and it's got our scoring criteria in it, and it explains the funding and everything. And then I'll just show you our pre-application for this year. It's coming. Okay, this is just a 4-page pre-application that they have to fill out. Now, at the end of that time, once the committee meets to pick which projects get funded, I'll notify all those communities that they have to get their legislation and they have to get all their engineers' estimates and everything in order to submit a final application. So the final application will be due on the 17th of December. Now, if you're submitting a final application, you're guaranteed funding because our committee already picked which ones are going to receive the funding. Now, in years past, it's always been a paper application that came into Eastgate, but this year, everything is going online through a portal that OPWC has set up. So I'm going to jump over to, this is the Ohio Public Works website, and right over here they have this is where it explains the new portal, and they do have a couple videos, one for Clean Ohio and one for infrastructure that I work on, that explains the portal and how it works and what the applicants are going to be expected to do. And then there'll be another training for this portal coming up in a week on how to make payments for these projects. Because once the project gets started, the community has to submit a disbursement to get a payment from the OPWC to pay the contractor. So all this will be online. It's going to be an interesting year getting everybody on board with this. All the communities that submit an application are supposed to come in here and sign up for an account to get a username and password. And they have some good frequently asked questions down at the bottom. This is a super successful program. Like I said, 36 years it's been going on. Anybody have any questions?
Yes. My question is, you said there's a 9-member committee that reviews the applications and decides who gets funded. Now, would a committee member be required by ethics law to abstain from voting on any project that would pertain to their own community? In other words, let's just take the mayor of Camel as an example. Would he have to abstain on a proposed project from the city of Camel?
No. That's never come up before, and they always vote on their own projects. So
probably, I'm guessing the only issue would be that if somebody on that committee were going to profit potentially financially from the project, then I think under state ethics law they would have to abstain. But if they're not profiting personally, or their family isn't profiting, then I'm guessing it may not be an issue.
Yeah, and it would probably be different if there were consultants involved. So because all these all the committee members are just public employees. So
I have a question for you, Ed.
Hello. Once again, my main focus is the active transportation trail proposal along the Mahoning. So hypothetically, is that something that could potentially be on next year's round of federal funding?
well, this isn't federal funding. This is state funding.
Okay.
And a trail would not qualify for this. This is roads, bridges, water, sewer, wastewater projects, culverts, stormwater projects.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
So for projects that apply this year for funding, when would those projects be under construction? What's the time lag?
Okay. So projects that are going to be submitting this year, next July, the money will become available. And they're supposed to be started within 1 year of that time. But we have projects that do lag, So yeah, matter of fact, today, around 35 projects that we worked on last year, they should be getting their agreements from the Public Works probably today for them to sign, and then they can get started on those projects.
And how much state money is usually in a project versus how much money the local would have to put in?
Good question. Because of our scoring methodology, it's very competitive. So you want to get the most points. So the more local share you put in, the more points you're going to get. And our max percentage is 61% local, gives you the most points. So for smaller communities, it's almost a must for them to put in the max amount so they can get the most points. Because the larger communities, their projects score better, so they're gonna get more points. So the small communities have to pony up a larger local share.
Any other questions for Ed?
Yeah,
You know what?
an observation here that it seems like your formula then is putting small communities with smaller budgets at a real disadvantage in participating in OPWC programs.
Yeah, you could say that they are at a disadvantage. But that was, you know, our district, they came up with their own methodology. So, yeah. I would agree with that, Pete.
Right.
That's pretty much true wherever you go, though. You know, look at the city of Youngstown. They can't compete with Columbus and Cleveland and Cincinnati.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, we will jump back into the agenda.
James Perko. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of feedback.
I know there's some feedback coming off of the computer. Let me step away from the computer. And I'm on the phone, so just real fast. I'm thoroughly impressed with what you're doing, where you've taken this program. I was one of the original district integrating committee members and helped to put this program together, and I'm just proud of the job you're doing. Keep doing.
Thank you.
All right, so as we move on here, we will make mention of the General Policy Board meeting that's upcoming. It is tentatively scheduled for July 26th at 10 a.m., still to be virtual. However, the date of that meeting may change. There are some scheduling conflicts. So if you are interested in attending that meeting, let me know. If you have suggestions for information that you think should be shared in the CAB report at that meeting, also let me know. And I will make sure to keep you informed of any changes that may occur to that meeting date and when that's scheduled to occur. And on that same topic, we'll talk about some resolutions that are up for passage this month. As we are still in a virtual format, we will vote on these following the meeting. So I will email out the resolutions to board members and ask for their votes on each resolution. So we'll just have a brief discussion period here at this meeting currently, and then we'll ask for those votes following the meeting via email. So I believe there are 3 resolutions, the first of which is just for information only. This resolution was previously voted on by Eastgate's Finance Executive Committee, as was necessary for inclusion in the State Transportation Improvement Program amendment. And that amends the fiscal year 21 to 24 TIP of our agency to increase right-of-way funding for acquisition on the pole-in signal upgrade project. So that resolution has already been passed. This is just included for your information. Resolution 10 is a resolution of Eastgate Regional Council of Governments concurring with the Trumbull County Transit Board's termination of the designated recipient status for Federal Transit Administration Section 5310, Enhanced Mobility for Seniors with Individuals with Disabilities Formula Grants Program for Trumbull County. And the third resolution is recommending to the State of Ohio Governor's Office of Appalachia and Ohio Development Services Agency to support funding for the Eastgate Regional Council of Governments Local Development District pre-application priority of projects in fiscal year 2022 for the Appalachian Regional Commission. So in the agenda that I sent out earlier today, the full resolution texts were included attached to the end of the agenda. So all of the details are included there, like for resolution 12 here, for the pre-application projects for ARC. You could see the priority rankings that are listed as well as project descriptions. But does anybody have any comments or discussions on any of these resolutions at this time?
Yeah, this is Dwayne Hennon.
Hi, Dwayne.
How are you doing today? Yeah, with the resolution that deals with the Trumbull County Transit Board, I was on the phone with the commissioners this week when they were having their meeting, and I believe because they haven't voted to join WRTA, they're kind of looking to actually put that almost on hold until they decide exactly what they're doing. So I think it's kind of premature to really pass a resolution like that. When I know two of the commissioners are kind of pulling back a little bit, wanting to keep funding here in Trumbull County rather than getting it sent back to the state.
Well,
Hey, Dwayne.
I read that resolution, and it's not that we're giving the money back to the state, really. I mean, the ODOT Department of the ODOT Office of Transit will become the recipient of those funds. And I'm assuming they would be dispersed to Trumbull County as needed. Am I right in thinking that way?
Hi, this is Ken.
James Perko.
Oh, Jim, let me jump in here first, and I'll give you
Okay.
your time. This is Ken. We have been involved in this for quite some time, going back a couple years ago. Dwayne, I don't think that's the case at all. The commissioners are, from what we understand, concur with this. We also have passed a resolution previously from WRTA giving back the designation to ODOT for their 5310. And the reason being the WRTA and that agency, it's become very cumbersome. It's, in their opinion, not worth the hassle to go through and be the designated recipient when they can just simply apply to ODOT and receive the funds through them without having their hands tied with all the federal regulations on that end of administering it. To the other question, when the designation is returned to ODOT, yes, Trumbull County or Mahoney County can apply for these funds. It's no different than what's going to take place here shortly as WRTA has an RFP coming out for these funds. So we're just following the process. Trumbull County Transit Board Trumbull County Transit Board passed this resolution on April 15th, I believe. And this resolution is just concurring with that one.
James Perko, if I can put some light on this. Trumbull County is right now in flux. We're not quite sure what direction it's going to go. But as a resident of Trumbull County, it does not make sense to send away money that we have been receiving. To give it to the state and then go through a whole lot of rigmarole to try to get it back.
Jim, let me jump in there. You first of all, you're not sending away money that you've been receiving. That money has been sitting on the table since 2015. That Trumbull County Transit Board has not found a local match to use that money, or two, to find a project that can spend that money. You can't just spend that money on, just ridership. It has to be specific to a need. So to say that is not correct.
Actually, it is. I'm working with this right now. The 5310 has been used for riders, senior and disabled specifically. And right now, the Trumbull County senior levy is burning through its money. They could go for this money. They could match it and provide a good transportation program for seniors and disabled. And I know we have had problems, and the biggest problem with Trumbull County is that the transit administrator does not report to the transit board, reports directly to the county commissioners. So there's a disconnect in communications and in the chain of command. Those are internal problems we have to solve. At this point, I am absolutely opposed to doing this because there is a need for senior rides here in Trumbull County, and that money has been used for senior rides for the last 15 years. And as far as WRTA saying it's too cumbersome, well, maybe WRTA does not know how to administer it because Trumbull County has been doing this for 15 years, using it, and it's not too cumbersome.
No, Jim, again, you're wrong. Trumbull County has not used one dime of 5310 funds since 2017. They continue to be lapsed. They continue to be not used. There is no application that has been submitted to FTA since then. So that is not a correct statement.
That is because the transit administrator has been not doing his job. He's been falling down on his duties.
Well, that has nothing to do with that statement. That money has been lapsing for years. The senior levy, Diane Draw can apply through, at this point, the RFP will be out for WRTA. She can apply through them. And then at some point when ODOT takes over the both Mahoning and Trumbull County, she can apply, senior levy can apply that way.
I told Diane to go after this money in January of 2019. She's had a couple of years to do that, but she hasn't because she couldn't comprehend that this money is for senior and disabled. And if she's falling down the job and burning through her money, but that's an internal problem in Trumbull County that we have to work out with our county commissioners. We only have one commissioner who wants to join WRTA, and that's Nikki Frenchco. The other two have told me they are not joining WRTA. So why would they do this? And as far as the transit board, they just put a bunch of new people on the transit board who hadn't been there, and they rushed this thing through. It does not make sense to give away money that we could be using for senior and disabled riders.
Okay, again, I'm going to disagree with you by you saying give away money. That money is still there. It's still available for Trumbull County to apply for and to receive.
By the way, who am I talking to? Who's speaking?
This is Ken Simpson.
Ken, okay.
Director of Transportation.
Okay, Ken. Didn't recognize your voice. But this is, for some reason, they want to give this money to WRTA and give it to the state, and we have to go beg for it when we already have it.
Well, I'll agree to disagree with that statement.
All right.
It's not Trumbull. It's not given to WRTA. It's given to WRTA to administer.
And now Trumbull County has to go back to WRTA, and we just shut down the program of cooperation with them.
I don't believe you shut down the cooperation with them. WRTA is still a willing partner to provide transit through for both Mahoning and Trumbull County. They are very much interested in following the Ohio Department of Transportation transit development and have a regional system, a one WRTA that provides rides from both Mahoning and Trumbull County. It does not stop at the county line. So that on their end, I I don't believe that it's broken down. I think that, like you've stated, you know, there needs to be some discussion with either the commissioners or, you know, the administrator on how to get that done. But Eastgate is definitely a proponent of regionalization, not two separate systems, not a Trumbull County one and not a Mahoning County one.
That I can understand, and if we had a plan to provide good regional service, however, the plan that was provided by Delta is ridiculous. I read it, and they did a poor job of it. The only thing they understand is big buses. They don't understand that about 85% of our rides go to senior and disabled, and a paratransit program works better in that situation. But WRTA does not comprehend things like that. So Trumbull County has to go on its own because WRTA does not comprehend paratransit. The only thing they understand is having great big buses running mostly empty on fixed routes.
So Jim, I appreciate your passion on this topic, but we are straying from the topic at hand here. So just to bring us back to resolution number 10, what's before the Citizens Advisory Board today is just a resolution concurring with a previous decision made by the Trumbull County Transit Board. So that is something that will be sent to our Citizens Advisory Board for a decision following this meeting.
Just let me go on record that I'm going to be opposed to that.
Any other comments on any of these before we move on?
Just one more comment from my end, Justin. I would offer to any of our Citizen Advisory Board members that want to discuss this further with myself and Murda. We'd be more than happy to do that. You can reach out to us through our office. So we would definitely be happy to sit down and discuss this, you know, at length.
All right, thank you, everyone. So we did have one point of discussion that we wanted to carry over from a previous meeting. Kevin, I know you and I had a brief discussion about this the other day. Did you kind of want to kick this off and kind of talk through some of the ideas on subcommittees that you had?
Yeah, well, basically it just follows what what our ideals were, that since we're going to take off on August, and since we are going to attempt to begin meeting in person on September, and our meeting starts at 6, is maybe that we could, anybody interested in joining the subcommittees could attempt to attend at 5 o'clock, and then we could begin the subcommittees. One that I've spoken about before about corridors, I'll have some non-members there at that first meeting talking about from our Economic Action Group. They're a spin-off of the Western Reserve Port Authority. They're housed here in our offices. And I'll have some of them that are performing certain corridor studies there as well. And then we can also talk with the other about the other two committees as well. But we just think that maybe if we just show up about an hour early at our September meeting, then we can start those subcommittees again.
Okay.
If possible, we can even begin the Zoom meeting early too, if that's possible, Justin.
Yeah, I think that's certainly something we can accommodate. Anybody else have any thoughts or any questions about getting together a little earlier before the next CAB meeting to have some additional discussion about subcommittees and maybe work out some of the details?
It makes sense.
All right, let's just do it then, Justin.
Okay,
Let's see what kind of turnout we can come up with.
sure. All right, so that brings us to our announcement section of the agenda. Two pieces of public input opportunities here. One is through the Ohio Department of Transportation regarding the State Route 46 82 interchange improvement project. That's the diverging diamond interchange that's going in up in Trumbull County. There is a link to our website on this slide that you're able to click to. It's got a bunch more information from the Ohio Department of Transportation. There's a link there that will take you to the site where you could participate in the public meeting. I believe there's also a link there that will let you access, I think, some of the additional engagement methods that they're employing for this project. So that public meeting is Thursday, July 15th at 5 p.m. So if that's something that interests you, that you want to learn more about that project and provide some comment and some feedback on the work that they're doing to get that project ready, attend. You can attend that meeting at that time. And then secondly, the Niles Active Transportation Plan is still taking in public input. So I included a link there. That's a really interesting project being led by the Creating Healthy Communities Coalition in Trumbull County through the Trumbull County Combined Health District. Helping out the city of Niles. They previously did a similar project for the city of Warren that turned out a really fantastic active transportation plan. So this one's looking to follow that same framework and create a great document that the city would be able to utilize to create some active transportation improvements. So if you've yet to check that out, be sure to go to that website. It's an interactive map style public input form, pretty easy to navigate and use, and you can provide feedback to that. I did see in the chat, I think, Pete, you had asked if there's a way to ensure that all attendees are vaccinated. I do not know, but I do know that it's more of a, we trust that everyone will be responsible in that if they are not vaccinated, they are required to wear a mask while in our office. So I will make that clear, when I send out the information for our next meeting in September. And I think the hope is that people are responsible and take the well-being of others into mind as they're interacting, considering that we are still dealing, with the pandemic and working through some of these things. So thank you for asking that question. Anybody else have any announcements, questions, comments about anything we went over today?
Yes, for that public meeting for the State Road 4682, can you email that link?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because that's too much to write down.
Yeah, if you look at the email that I sent out this morning and open up the presentation, you're able to click the link there, but I will also include it in the follow-up email.
Oh, okay.
This meeting. So it'll be in
I missed that.
And Justin, I believe we have it on our website, right on the front page too.
Yeah, if you go to our website, it's in the news section.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
On that meeting, would that be virtual only, or will it have an in-person component on the 15th of July?
Take a look. If I'm not mistaken, that is virtual only. I believe it is.
Okay.
So here's the news article that we have on our website. You can see it is a live virtual public meeting. And there's the link right there with the day and time. There's also a call-in option, so you don't necessarily need a computer to connect. And then there's a website to access all of the materials and a cool video. All right. Well, if that's everything that everyone has, reminder, no meeting in August, and then to keep your eyes peeled on information for the September meeting. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion to adjourn?
No motion needed.
Okay.
All right, enjoy your 4th, everybody.
Yes, you too. Thank you.